Steve, what's going on this Monday?
Well, thank you very much, Scott. Hello, everybody out there. Hello, Steve. How's it going
Hello.
on the West Coast?
Good afternoon. Happy 4-day week.
This is true.
Friday.
Friday is a market holiday, everybody. So don't show up and go, hey,
Plan
my scanners
accordingly.
aren't working today. That's
Please don't do
the
that.
market's closed. Okay, hello, everybody. Welcome to another edition of the Office Hours. I'm your host, Jamie Hodge, and I got Steve Gomez riding shotgun today, April 11th. So without further ado, let's just get the disclaimer over with. Just want to make everybody in attendance aware of the fact that all the info that we share with you in this webinar or any of the other webinars we have coming at you on a weekly basis is for educational purposes only. Simply meaning if you need investment advice, please seek out someone who is licensed. They can legally dispense that type of information to you, someone like a registered investment advisor, maybe a Series 7 licensed stockbroker, so forth and so on. So just please don't misconstrue anything that we say today as a solicitation to buy or sell pretty much anything. All right. Moving right along here, just like to take a little bit of time at the top of the hour, especially for the new people in attendance, and kind of let everybody know about the community that we've built around the award-winning software that is Trade Ideas. All kind of starts over here on the left with our trading room hosted by Mr. Barry Anderson. Barry opens the doors about 30 minutes before every open. It's a great place to learn and trade. Doesn't matter if you're a beginner, intermediate, advanced. You got traders from all skill sets in there. And it's a very friendly community. Barry does a fantastic job at moderating. You know, the crowd could be 300-400 people at any given time. And other than Barry, the next best thing about that room is it's free. Okay, so if you haven't taken advantage of the room yet, by all means, get in there. You might just learn something. Of course, every other Monday, you get myself and Steve for the office hours. Every other Tuesday, you're going to get Steve and Andy for the trade of the week. Every other Wednesday, we bring in our CEO and founder, Mr. Dan Merkin, along with Brad Williams for the Q&A demo. Fun time with those guys, typically giving peeks of new technology that we're going to be incorporating in the TI that might not be ready for prime time yet. And we're going to round out the 5 p.m. Eastern webinars with Andy's Trading Studio every other Thursday, and I'm going to ride shotgun with him. Now, every day without fail, Monday through Friday, we will have our daily support session, which is a great place to get anything TI related, any questions that are TI related, answered in a real-time environment from one of us trader/trainer individuals here at Trade Ideas. The next slide is going to show you how to get there. So this URL down here is the same all the time, trade-ideas.com/live. Once you get there, you can bookmark this for easy access. So every day between 12 p.m. and 1 p.m. Eastern, get that live help on anything TI related. Now, we've just recently come out with a new getting started series of videos. These are the old ones, 101 through 401. Of course, 101, 201 covering more of the basics of TI Pro, 301 and 401 covering more of the advanced technology, advanced parts of the tech, like back testing and things of that nature. These videos, the older TI University, are still available on our YouTube channel. So if you just cruise over to YouTube, find the Trade Ideas channel, search for TI University, you can easily pull up this 4-part video series, stop it and start it whenever you'd like. But definitely watching 101 and 201 will certainly help you get over that learning curve if you're new sooner than later. And here we are at today's agenda. Of course, keeping with tradition, Steve usually takes the helm here at the top of the hour, or excuse me, at the top of the presentation here. We talk about the overall market action from the major ETFs. So Steve, if you're ready, I'll kick it over to you.
Sure. I'm
All
actually
right.
just finishing up on a quick question here. Hang on one sec.
No problem.
All right, good to go. And welcome. Let's see. You got views on my screen?
Yep.
Okay, cool. So let's expand this out. We're going to look at the daily. We're going to look at the usual suspects. Today, I'm going to start with the NASDAQ, the tech, the Qs, because they did something extremely significant today. You've all heard me talk a lot about the 50-day moving average. The 50-day simple moving average in blue is my general sign of health for anything that has price action, commodities, indexes, stocks, futures, whatever you want. Anything above that line is healthy. Anything below that line is all of a sudden not healthy and needs to prove itself, and guilty until proven innocent, whatever you want to call it. So as you can see, we had 3 days of a solid support last week to defend the flattening 50-day simple moving average. And today, the market woke up in a bad mood with tech stocks and said, nope, you got the gap down from this. If we zoom out, I'm actually going to put it on a weekly for a moment. We've talked a little bit about this in some of our recent webinars. The weekly's just got kind of a screaming head and shoulder action to it. And today's action, that gap down that even shows up on the weekly, that's bad. I'm just going to say, when you gap down out of the right shoulder, everybody's kind of starting to see the same thing at once. So, oh boy, this right shoulder maybe is actually forming, and kept getting rejected at the 50-week. How about that? The 50-week moving average showing up, making a strong support. So horrible on the weekly chart with these two attempts to get above, and today's new fresh candle on the week gapping down. That's not a good sign. Not a good sign. So I'm going to go back to daily. And
Is
so
that a
that's
dislocated shoulder, Steve?
a dislocated shoulder. Very good, Jamie. Snap. It's actually 2 snaps in there. He needs to go see the orthopedic surgeon, Dr. Andy. So that's the leading indicator. The NASDAQ has been the weakest all along. It was the first one to lose the 200-day right there, and then you see it try to get it back twice, and it was denied. Third time, fourth time, almost a fifth time denied. This is a brick wall, the 200-day moving average in the NASDAQ. Gapping down, not a good sign. Be very careful out there on stocks that you already don't like and you are thinking about cutting. You're going to have to do it. Now, we do see some support over here that could come into play. Very well, we'll see tomorrow. I mean, the market could gap up tomorrow and just maybe continue selling. Who knows? But still, this is a tremendous amount of damage that has been done. So now we go over to the S&P 500, which has been held up a little better by oil and energy. Doesn't have the serious tech component that the NASDAQ does. But same thing. Let's even look at the weekly. Same thing, kind of a head and shoulders action happening on the weekly as well. And same thing over here. Couldn't fight its way through the 20-week moving average. The gap down today gave up the 50-week moving average in blue. So it's basically kind of behind the NASDAQ. The NASDAQ seems to be wanting to lead us lower. And let's go back and look at that. And so the SPY is yet to follow. Now, if that's the case over there in the SPY, we could fall down to these levels as well, again, pretty darn quick. Whatever that level is, looks like around 430-ish. So very, very bearish. We're very, there's nothing really good happening right now. The market has been under the moving averages, tried to make a test, which, by the way, this happens a lot in topping formations as the buyers are so conditioned to continue buying the dip that they do it. But at the same time, you've got seasoned veterans and hedge funds that are trying to go short, and they wind up getting squeezed out and they have to cover their shorts. So you get what's called these vicious bear market bounces. I'm not going to call it a bear market. I'm still going to call it a seller's market, because selling the rips is still the way to go. We'll see if the trend develops to the downside. That's when you would start to call it a bear market. But these types of big vicious bounces are common. And so we ran out of steam again at these levels, and we're rolling back over. And as you can see, today was the first day again that we gave up the 50-day moving average. The last time that happened was pretty much right there. So horrible day technically. And guess what, guys and girls? Tomorrow we have CPI. CPI numbers are going to come out, and I've even seen some headlines of the current administration trying to get us ready for some not good inflation numbers coming out tomorrow. So market could have been a little bit scared going ahead of that. And lastly, I'll just look at Apple. This is the darling bellwether of the stock funds, also broke and gave away, lost its 50-day moving average. So there's really nothing good out there. Well, what's good out there is there's always a bull market somewhere, and it's going to be in gold, GDX. I'm in some UEC. I think that is another energy uranium play that we need to keep an eye on. Trade of the week last week is still hanging strong in GOLD. And lastly, the trade of the week this week did not fire. As you can see that blue line, we were waiting for some congestion to pop out of that. But if we're going to have a market that wants to roll over and get ugly, there's just not going to be a good backdrop to allow the IYR to trigger. So it's quite possible this may not trigger this week. We'll see what happens. And that's it.
Steve,
That's all I
I
got.
thought the inflation was transitory, right?
Well, which one are you talking about? The real inflation or the one that they tell us about? Because the
Yeah,
real inflation is
exactly.
much less transitory than the one they're telling us about.
Yeah, that's a made up thing. I can't necessarily remember at any point in my life when something got cheaper, right? Things only get more expensive, but they
Yeah, and
really get expensive when you know, amp up the money supply.
they're hiding those costs. They're hiding rent really badly. Rent is out of control, and they keep using some crazy model to keep rent down. Guillermo, you are correct. The ag plays, the CTVA. I'm actually along that one. Um, yep, there it is. I'm long CTVA. So there are plays out there: silver, gold, agriculture, energy. Take your pick, but U.S. equities, especially Nasdaq, tech stocks, be careful. All right.
All right, let me grab the screen back. And Guillermo, I see your question about the turbo brakes. If we have a little bit of time here, um, I can show you the versions that I'm using now, which are different from the originals, assuming if you got those from the Traders Vault channel. But I hopefully have a little bit of time at the end of the session here, kind of show you what these versions are. And then if you have any tweaks, you can just email us and we can attempt to help you with that. Okay, so you got eyes back on my screen, yeah, Steve?
Yep.
Okie dokie. All right, so no big surprise today. Steve just outlined all the action pretty well. We're just in a much more difficult market. Started off with the gap down today and just headed lower. So I tell you what, it was a classic setup from my compare count readings that I got this morning. And what do I mean by that? Well, I've got one of my favorite compare count windows, which is looking at the larger cap stocks. And by larger cap, I mean any company with a market cap greater, right at 4 billion or higher. All right, and you can see this was the reading after the first 15 minutes of today's action. We had a pretty decent, not quite 60, but 59% was good enough. And that pretty much told the tale or told the story or gave us a little bit of a, hey, get ready for some downside action. So a pretty good read from the compare count. And by the way, I've got a collection of links that I'm going to be sharing with you guys at the end of the presentation here. So this compare count for the large caps will be in there as well, just in case you were wanting that. But right off the bat here, after the first 15 minutes or so, and let's just expand the 5-minute out because I can tell you right now, this led to a pretty good risk in just shorting the SPY today. We get the pre-market right here in the kind of burnt orange, light orange there. But you can see right here, get my pointer out here. This is, well, my coloring book here. Here's the opening candle right here. Saw this action right here on the SPY, and I'm thinking to myself, well, with those pretty good downside compare counts, I think I'll just go ahead and take a shot at shorting the SPY as one of my trades today, and you can see that sell arrow right there. But this little, looked like the SPY needed a haircut here on the 5-minute. When can you short the SPY? And the high up here from my short point was slightly less than 1 point, just betting that it's not going to pop in you high for the day today. So anytime you can make a trade in the SPY, which is a larger instrument, $440-ish, and only risk a point, why not? And of course, that kept me in the trade. Covered a little too soon here, but hey, what are you going to do? 2 points in the SPY on a trade, I'll take it. And of course, left a considerable amount on the table, but hey, when do I not leave a considerable amount on the table? That's kind of like what Andy was talking about last Thursday, a little quick to cover. But the information was good. The compare count window did its job, and it was just a nice clean trade, one of the cleaner trades I saw today. So that was how we started the day. Now let me get on to the rest of the story, as Paul Harvey would say. Okay, so a good start with a compare count and a nice read. Holly's been a little lackadaisical lately, so let's go ahead and get the Holly recap out of the way. Obviously, it's not going to take too long because we only had 2 signals today. So typically, when Holly is active and putting in some good trades, typically like to focus on these 2 columns right here, conservative and moderate profit. And at the end of the day, a lot of the times there is a spread between conservative and moderate, just like we have in the ACHC trade here, which was a short. So let me go ahead and get that one up here. Now, if you're new to the AI or maybe these webinars, you might be wondering, what is conservative profit? How does it differ from moderate profit? Well, if we look at the exit reason column right here, this is always going to give you the reason why the AI closed out the trade in conservative mode. You got 5 different things, either a stop loss, a profit target, a timed hold was hit, or a profit save or a reduced risk was initiated by the AI, which allows it to close a winner or a loser early. Now, obviously, only 2 trades here. We don't have any reduced risks, but you can see right here in the ACHC, Holly got a little bored and covered for a flat. That's why we're seeing 0.00 in the conservative. But had we held it going into the close over here, well, we would have made $71.50. Now, keep in mind, these numbers here are based around 100 share trades, as you can see right here. And we can set that up to go, you know what, I want to risk a certain dollar amount per trade, or I just want to do a straight up 100 shares per trade. That's user configurable, but I've just got mine for easy math on 100 shares. So obviously we got to stop hitting Billy, and we're going to get to that one in just a second. But the bottom line is, if we would have ignored Holly's exit right about here somewhere, since that was a flat, we could have gleaned on a $100 risk about 72 bucks if we would just been patient, held it into the close. Of course, we also have to sum it up when the AI is making the exit. Well, how does this chart look to us, right? Pretty much stayed below the entry line the entire time. Just took that nasty little wick up there on the 5-minute and then right back down below. Just took this one a little bit longer to get going. I ought to know because I was in this one as well, and I was like, well, sitting there up a quarter for like most of the day, so I wasn't really anxious to cover it, let it do its thing, and it turned out okay. So a decent little short trade in ACHC from the AI with some spread between conservative and moderate. All right, the next one here was a stop hit. Just a, it took its sweet time. Here's the initial entry signal up here. Holly pretty much buying the top on this one, and then just a slow grind down. Didn't quite get it here, took a little bounce up, and then whoosh, came back down here and barely tickled the stop area. So while this was a losing trade for the AI, it was a decent trade around opportunity. And what do I mean by that? Well, let's take a look here. Let's see. I'll just stretch this out for a little bit easier viewing. When we're talking about a trade around that the AI was stopped out of, what we do is we see how the stock reacts at the stop area. Now keep in mind, we got the stop area right here, clearly visible, 27.17. Well, what did it do once it got the stop out? Well, we took a little wick below and then quickly reclaimed that stop area. So when you see the stocks doing this type of action, not saying that they're all going to work, it's very possible that something could reclaim it for 5, 10, 15 minutes and then whoosh back down again. Let's take a look on the 15-minute, see if it's a little bit more friendly. And this is where I really like to look most of the time. Notice that nice little wick. We reclaimed it immediately in the following 15-minute candle. So once this candle starts to turn green right here, and we can think to ourselves, well, Holly got stopped out. I can take a smaller risk, get a better price, use the, maybe outside of that wick by a penny right there as my stop loss. And this would have made for a pretty good trade around. Of course, it didn't make it back up to the entry signal, but somewhere down here around 27.20-ish, 27.30-ish, and we topped out at 28.68. So that would have been good for over a point on the trade around on a trade that Holly got stopped out on. Even though red here, you see the AI get stopped out, it's always good to see how the stock reacts around that stop area. And this is pretty much textbook. That was a very pretty trade around that we could have taken advantage of. Kind of what we used to do in the olden times when we all had to go to an office, except instead of a AI, it was an actual trader, complaining about getting stopped out. And we kind of look at each other and go, well, it looks good now. And a lot of the times the trade would work. It's the same thing here, except we have our digital assistant, Holly, getting stopped out instead of a human. All right, I was just checking out the questions panel there, Steve. Looks like you're knocking them down pretty good. Now, Jonathan, what is your question pertaining to a trade around? Right. Okay. So do you see the action right here? Right.
Yeah, he was talking about, yeah.
Okay. So yes, it is a failed AI trade, but just because it's a failed AI trade, if we pull it up and observe how it acts around the stop area, and the point being, we see this all the time. A lot of the times, let's take our own trading, for example. How many times have you been stopped out of a trade only to see it turn and go in the direction that you wanted it to originally, right? Well, it's the same topic here, right? We see the AI get stopped out if the stop area, and only if the stop area acts as a pivot point as it did down here, the nice wick below and then a nice greening of the next 15-minute candle. A lot of the times that can be a good trade around, all right? It's not the original entry, but it is a trade around. Um, they don't all do this. A lot of them stay below the area, all right? And if they stay below the area and continue, well, then it's a non-event. You don't pay any attention to it. But if they behave like Billy did, well, then there's opportunity there, even though the AI was stopped out. So hopefully that makes sense. But yeah, I mean, hey, it's not easy. A lot of times we don't see it. You have to be very, attentive. Of course, it wasn't that hard today since the AI only had a couple of trades. But other than that, pretty dismal performance around all risk modes here: conservative, moderate, a little bit less. And then of course, if we just bought and sold both trades and hope for the best, down a little bit less than $100, but not a very wise risk management style there. So Holly having a little bit of a slump. We'll see what happens for the rest of the week. All right, now with Holly out of the way, we can get on to, okay, so I kind of showcased this last office hours. We've got all types of traders out there. Some people only like swing trading, some people are only intraday, some people like to engage in both. So we've really been amping up our swing trading offerings. Everybody's familiar with the trade of the week, which arrives in your inbox on Monday mornings. Now we have our strength alerts, which also arrive in your inbox and your alert windows, assuming you're a subscriber to Trade Ideas every Monday as well. And we've recently added the Trader's Eye, which are hand-picked, curated plays from some of the traders here at Trade Ideas. And this little window right here will fluctuate throughout the day. You might see things come off the list, or you might see things added to the list. So between Trader's Eye, Strength Alerts, and TOW, we got 5 on the Strength Alerts, 1 with TOW, that's about 6, and usually there's at least 3 or 4 on the Trader's Eye. So that's gonna be 10 decent swing alerts, or things that could have potential, good swing potential there coming at you on a daily basis. So you might want to get into the habit of doing the following. Let's just take the new strength alerts for the day. And a lot of the time, today was a Monday, they just came out. We had downside action in the market. Well, let's see how strong the strength alerts are. Okay, so you can see here ACI topped out up here on Friday. Let me get my pointer. All right, that was Friday. Here's today. Looks like it's, looks like the 20 period is catching it nice and good. All right, so assuming we have more downside action tomorrow, well, if the market starts off with red, doesn't make a whole lot of sense to just jump in buying everything. We might have another leg down. But the bottom line is, if we kind of scan through these strength alerts, they're pretty much holding up to their name. All right. They're not really going down a whole lot. Either areas of support or specific moving averages seem to be holding these things up. So, they're doing their thing. They are strong in a down market. So what I've done is I've set some price alerts that I'll be sharing with you guys also when I drop the links at the end here, um, just on areas that I find interesting. Like for example, CVX, Chevron, everybody knows who they are. We got this nice little catch right here at the bottom with the 20 period SMA. So you can see what I did here. I just took the high of this day right here, which was back on the 25th apparently. And if it breaks that level, I'd be interested in getting long there. Not waiting for the breakout, because breakouts have been, well, tricky, for lack of a better description as of late. But if we do break this level here, once again, you can see we tried on Friday and then took a little pullback. But if we break that level again, we might get into this top area here, and who knows, before long, we might be popping above that little range there. So I'm going to be sharing some price alerts for the TI strength plays as well before we're done today. Okay, so we're going to skip around a little bit. My previous day is rippers, which are stocks that were in play, say on Friday, are still going to be in play today, because once stocks are in motion to the tune of the volume and the percentage moves up and down that these stocks are going to have, typically they're not just going to go to sleep the next day, which makes for good action, assuming we have some patterns that are conducive. We did have a couple of good plays, one on the long side and one on the short side. Even though these plays are getting harder and harder to find, it seems they're dwindling. You might think that today it was just a short bonanza, but when you're looking at the quality patterns, not so easy. But we did have a couple. But I'm going to skip down here to my stock race correlations today. Okay, because this little stock race that I'm going to show you guys, which is also going to be one of the links that I'll drop at the end here, considering the action, the market action that we had today. I mean, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 I've got up here, and I'm sure there were a couple more. But let's just take a look here. And I'm going to pull the race over here. It's called Hugging the 10 stock race. We're going to be using the 15-minute intraday chart. And of course, the green line here is the 10 period moving average. So once again, keeping in mind that today was a down day, number one, it found one of the biggest upside movers today relatively quickly. Okay, here we have Veru, which was only up 182% today. Okay, doing massive volume. I mean, some pretty juicy relative volume right there at 617, all right? 64 million in the float and traded almost 340 million shares. So first 15-minute candle right here. So kind of just like with the compare count windows that I watch, and a lot of people sit out first 15 minutes. Barry sits out the first 15 minutes simply because there can be a lot of elbows thrown in that opening 15 minutes. A trade that would have worked for the day might have got you out on a big wick to the downside, and vice versa on a short. But the first 15-minute candle closes, you pull it up, you see how it wicked right down to the 10 period here, and you're thinking to yourself, hey, we also had a nice conducive pre-market range as well. All right, so tell you what, yeah, let's look at the 15 here. Okay, So we got a couple of different things happening here. We got a close adherence to the 10 period. So, if we're trying to assume risk after that first 15 minutes on the open, well, there's only been one 15-minute candle so far, so we could easily use the bottom of that prior or the first 15-minute candle as a risk factor. Could have got long here or here, never would have sweated it at all. No pullbacks at all, just riding that 10 period. But as we're slowly notching up here, we're breaking intraday highs. And then we really got going right here. All right. Now I've put, this arrow down here just to say, hey, after the first 15 minutes, not a bad signal, adhering to that 10 period. If we would have taken the trade, small risk outside of that candle there, didn't happen. But notice what we have right here on this second arrow. It's also a range break from this nice tight pre-market range, which is what I like to focus on a lot when I am looking at my previous day's rippers. A lot of the time I'm keying off of that pre-market range. So hugging the 10 brings it to our attention after the first 15-minute candle. Could have made entries here with low risk, but then right here, 9:15, 45 minutes in, 30 to 45 minutes in, we get this nice tight and crisp range break from the pre-market. And then you can see it was just off to the races, ladies and gentlemen, after that point. So, could have participated somewhere around 6:15, could have participated right here at 6:58, and then we topped out, I do believe, at 14:57. Okay, so just the fact that this one race alerted me to Veru 15 minutes after the open, man, what a mover. I mean, I haven't seen one like this in a while. Of course, a lot of these biotech stocks are doing that. And of course, this is a pharmaceutical stock as well. But boy, talk about monster volume, monster move, adhering to the 10 and getting alerted pretty close to the open on the first signal, and then having that coalesce with a range break from the pre-market. It was just a really beautiful setup there. Okay. And you can see, look at all the occurrences here. I mean, there were hundreds and hundreds of occurrences. Of course, I'm running only, let's see here. I can't remember if this is a 1 minute or 2 minute. Yeah, I like to run 1 minute races because I get the information quicker. Of course, it's to your preference, but 1 to 2 minutes is typically what I stick with, making this thing act more like some kind of strange ticker as opposed to just watching the races. Okay, so that was one of the better ones, or definitely the biggest percentage mover for the day, and not a lot of rocket science going into this setup either, just nice and simple. Let's see the second one here. FEAM, okay, first 15-minute candle right here. So after the first 15 minutes, you see FEAM coming through. This candle closes, what do we close at here? 22.45. Then this guy opened up 22.48. So after that first 15-minute candle, plenty of time to get filled somewhere in the lower quarter of this candle would have been perfectly fine. Let's just say 23-ish, right? And this guy topping out before the day is done at 26.75. So not near as beefy on the volume, but still on a relative scale where 1 is normal, 20 is pretty darn good sometimes. I mean, most of the time. The Veru was just off the charts on many different levels today. Of course, this one having a bit beefier of a float of 1.43 billion, only kicking out 144,000 shares on the day, mainly because it is a younger stock. As you can see over here, this is all the days, right? So obviously it was an IPO, or I believe it was an IPO, but also kind of coinciding with this nice little rounded bottom that's being put in. While we're on the topic of new issues, anytime you see limited data like this, always like to come over here and hit the old Brian Shannon special, which is the anchored VWAP, anchor it to the first day of trading to give us a look where that volume weighted anchored volume weighted average price is from the first day. Now look what we got here. We got it just reclaiming that anchored VWAP. So, when you start to notice things like this as well, should give you a little bit more confidence to stay in that trade, um, right around the 23.31 level, I believe. So keep that in mind as you're scrolling through symbols and you see limited data on the daily. Anchor that VWAP. A lot of the times you're going to get some interesting, interesting levels from the AVWAP. Well, thank you, Mike. Glad you like it. Okay, there is more. Now, just keeping in mind the overall down action of the market today, some pretty impressive plays here. All right, so here we have LYRA. Take a look at some of the specs here. Hey, relative volume 56.72, what we call a uber low float. Typically 20 million shares or less is what we're going to call a low float. This one coming in at 9.3. Not a lot of turnover, not quite 4 million shares, but huge on the relative scale. All right, what did it look like after the first 15 minutes? We had this little doji. We come down here, we kind of, get a little bit bleedy, but it's on our radar. We get a reclamation of the 10 period right here, and then this one was pretty much off to the races as well. So, keep in mind, once we see this type of action, say this candle opens up, we start to see it, penetrate the low of the prior candle. All you got to do is watch, see how it reacts around the 10 period. You can go early if you want, but if you went early on this one, you might have got stopped out for a little loser, but it wouldn't have been a whole lot. But what we typically want to see, kind of exactly what I was pointing out on that Holly trade around, how's it acting here? Is it hugging it? Obviously it is. Then we get the wick through right here. Couple of good things to point out about this one as well. The stock race is telling us about it, but look what might be coming down the pipe if this thing gets a little traction. High of the pre-market range, we're getting alerted right here. We could always start taking little pieces here and there, but then we get this nice little consolidation leading to, boom, a break of that pre-market range. Now this one didn't just take off and go like the other ones did. We took a little pullback right back down to the 10 period, but eventually, look what happens, all right? So we've got the race telling us about it. We can take a position with small risk if that's what we want to do, or we can wait for this pattern to complete itself or to pop through there. So 555, the pre-market break there of the high. Took a little pullback to 533-ish. So, not exactly a hair ripping pullback, right? But then just a nice slow grind. And this little guy topped out right about 8 today. So a pretty good percentage move off of Lira as well. What do we have next here? And just keep in mind, all of these symbols were produced by the Hugging the 10 stock race. So here we have a nice little grinder as well, probably the smallest as far as the relative volume goes today, just a measly 5.2, 13.6 million on the float, only doing 371,000. Right, but that's plenty of liquidity in my book. So here we got the opening 15-minute candle. Following candle stays well above it. So anywhere in this level right here would have been great for an entry as well. Not really much of a pre-market, just a few dashes there, a little high and whatever there. But even having said that, still, once we break that level, just up, and away. So not a bad move from the second 15-minute candle there, coming in about let's call that 430. This little guy topping out around close to $5. So small dollar stock, not a big dollar move, but a pretty decent percentage move going on in OSS today. Yes, Jonathan, I've got a collection of links. Hugging the 10 is one of those that I'm going to drop into the chat here before we're done here, so no problem. All right, last but not least here, we had PFIX coming from this stock race as well. Okay, opening 15-minute candle here. Start to see PFIX coming through, never touches the low again from that point. So let's say we took a stab at it somewhere in this 15-minute candle here. The second one, let's just say 57.60-ish, right? Our low of that candle would have been 57.23, 57.19. We've been risking about 40 cents on almost a $60 stock there. That's not a bad risk at all. All right. We do have some weird pre-market highs up here, but notice the correlation. Okay. So let's say we take a little piece here and hope that it hugs the 10. We get the reclamation of the 10 in that following 15-minute candle. And this 1, 2, 3, 4 took about an hour before it gets up here and starts pecking at these pre-market highs. One peck. Oh, come on, pin. One peck, two peck, three peck, and then on the fourth, boom, just off and away. So it took that one a little while to get through, but hey, a little sideways consolidation never hurt anybody. But once again, say we took the middle of the second 15-minute candle, 57.60-ish, topping out for total profit potential, a little over 59. So from a larger, let's see what the market cap is here. Can't necessarily say larger market cap because I don't know what it is right now, but decent relative volume, higher price stock, and a decent percentage return on that intraday trade there. And, you know, obviously, I'm going to be watching this one again tomorrow. We'll see what happens. It just makes a lot of sense that things that are hugging the 15-minute, hey, here's your bull market right here in this stock race. You know, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 stocks, you know, bucking the trend of a down market and grinding higher. Now, call me crazy, but I bet Veru is going to be in play again tomorrow. So that's why you're going to see it over here on these two top lists right here.
You're going to
Notice who,
share the
yes,
hugging the
yes.
10. Jonathan's got to pick up his kid from school, but if you miss it, Jonathan, you can always email us and we'll give it to you.
Well, I tell you what, we're almost done here. So for Jonathan's benefit,
Going to bat for you, Jonathan.
I'm going to go ahead and drop the links in. Okay, so stand by. Well, come on, notepad. There we go. Okay, hopefully these all get in there. Okay, so
Yep.
you're going to have both of my top list over here. Now that we're going to talk about previous days rippers a little bit more, because a lot of the things that we just talked about, or a lot of the symbols that we talked about coming through that hugging the 10 stock race, are going to be on this list. Okay, there's Lyra, there's Veru. Let's see, what was that other one? OSS, I think. Get my list back up here. Yep, OSS, and then PFIX. Of course, it wasn't up that much on a percentage basis, but we're going to have a little bit of overlap here. But just keep in mind, these are two completely different windows, but it's no big surprise that some of these symbols are going to be showing up on that hugging the 10, all right? So those of you who attend on the regulars kind of know the process here, but for the new people, I'm just going to quickly walk through it. You've already got all the links there, so be sure and copy those links, tuck them away on your desktop, or go ahead and load them up in the cloud. Just don't forget to save them. So the methodology is as follows. What I do at the end of the day is about 5 minutes before every close. Doesn't have to be right at the close because, of course, we can always use the historical function. If you forget to do it, you can do it in the morning before the market opens. You can do it in the middle of the night, whatever floats your boat in that regard. But these are the stocks that showed up, that are showing up at the close today. So this is the process. First and foremost, let's pop into my symbol list, and you can see it down here at the bottom. This is the same list that I clear out and populate for every session. Previous day's rippers. Today we had 72, 36 from the ones that were down the most, 36 from the ones that were up the most. Now, let me reiterate here. We're looking at change from the open, not change from the close, because we don't care about gaps, okay? We're only concerned with things that are motoring up and down since the open of the regular session, okay? So here is the process. First and foremost, we're gonna come in here, we're gonna clear out the list. I can just right click here, select all, hit the old backspace, boom, they're gone. Now the list is empty. So what do? We come over here, we just go bzz, hit Control C, come back, find our list, hit the old Control V, there are the downside movers. We do the same thing for the upside. Just click and drag, Control C, scroll to the bottom of the list, give it the old carriage return and a Control V. All right, now we got 74 stocks ready to go for tomorrow. These windows right here are just simple high-low tickers. We're only looking at new high in the session and new pre-market highs as well. And we're gonna have the exact same opposite for this window. Regular session lows and pre-market lows. Now, what I'll say about pre-market lows, if you do like to get in early, 1 hour, 2 hour before the open, or maybe even, I don't know, 6 hours before the open, the ones hitting the pre-market lows, just notice what kind of pre-market range they're putting in. If they're putting in nice tight pre-market ranges, then you should really pay attention to those, okay? Can give you a little bit of a head start. That way when it hits a high in the regular session, you're like, oh yeah, I see what's going on here. Low risk, I'm in it. That's the way you can make entries off the open with a little risk, assuming that pre-market range is nice and tight. Now, since these windows are only looking at regular high, regular low, pre-market high, pre-market low, then we have to make sure that we point to our custom list. You'll notice when I come in here, only the following list, previous day's rippers, okay? Simple as that, pretty easy process, but we'll produce some very good movers. Then we just have to look and see, hey, is this pattern conducive for whatever pattern it is that you prefer on the intraday? Of course, some of the times these might line up for swing trades as well or look good on the daily, but just keep in mind these are predominantly for intraday moves, all kind of geared off of the pre-market range. And now with the addition of the hugging the 10, you might get correlation. In other words, hey, this looks good from the previous day's rippers list. It's got a nice pre-market range. Hey, it's also coming through my hugging the 10 races, okay? We get confirmation like that, it makes it easier, A, to stay in the trade or maybe even add to it if the opportunity presents itself. Okay, so I believe the only two windows that are not in the list that I dropped are just these two windows here. So they're pretty much little skeletons because remember, you have to create your custom list and then point to it. But I'll go ahead and drop these in as well, just so you don't have to recreate them. So there is the high version. And here is the low version. Okay, there they are all in the chat window. And we're just about out of time here and I'm just about out of content. So I hope you guys enjoyed it.
Hey, I'm going to
Keep an eye.
remind everybody, I'm going to be doing the noon Eastern support session tomorrow on YouTube live stream and Wednesday. And so, you know, if you want to continue any of these topics, I'll be around for those at noon Eastern tomorrow and Wednesday.
Very good, Steve. Thank you for letting us know that. Thank you all for attending. Always appreciate you taking the time to come in here because we know you're busy. Had a decent little crowd in here today, so good stuff. Just reading your question there, Craig, before we depart. Are we able to use strategies like these for crypto? Could we link to any brokerages for crypto and run through brokerage? Craig, that is a fantastic question. Right now, the answer is no, but our crypto product is in development right now. As soon as we get a few things nailed down with our server architecture, just from a developmental side for people out there who are interested in crypto, we have started ingesting crypto data yet, or hold on, Jamie's getting tongue-tied here. We have started ingesting crypto data. However, it's going to be a little bit of time before the product is ready. All right. But it is in process, and we hope to have that done. I can't really say any timetables here because I'd end up stepping on my tongue. But just know that it is in process. And right now, it's not possible to use any of our strategies with crypto or Brokerage Plus, but it is in the works. The work is being done. Just going to take a little bit of time because, as we all know, it's a 24/7 market, which makes it a little trickier than trading the U.S. equity markets that have these nice open and close hours. But it is coming, Craig. Can't really speak to the brokerage yet because we're in talks with several. Could be one, could be all of them. We'll just have to wait and see. But it is going to be some of the bigger firms out there. Yeah. Okay, ladies and gentlemen. Once again, thanks for attending. Scott, if you're ready to walk us out, we're ready for you.
Yeah, sure. Thanks. Thanks, everyone. Grab the favorite strategies indicators ebook if you don't have it yet before we release a different one. Trade-ideas.com/strategy. Go there, plug in your email, get the download link. We have a partnership with Interactive Brokerage. You can connect your brokerage account at Interactive Brokerage directly with our Trade Ideas Brokerage Plus module. You can do automated trading and all kinds of portfolio management, one-click trading. Directly from there, just go to trade-ideas.com/IBKR to learn some more about that. Stock racing is a new market visualization technology we developed. It's in our new releases, so go ahead and download one of our new releases and try it. Trade-ideas.com/stockrace will show you how to set it up. And it's kind of a breakthrough. It's really cool to check out. We do have a relationship with E-Trade, similar to Interactive Brokerage, where we connect directly through our Brokerage Plus account, and you can trade with zero commission trading if you have an E-Trade account. So go to trade-ideas.com/E-Trade to learn how to set that up. If you already have an E-Trade account, if you don't, it'll give you some more info about how to get an account and set that up. We have a promo code, Spring is Here, will save you 15% off your first month or year of Trade Ideas or an upgrade during the month of April. So go ahead and use that code to either start a new subscription or get an upgrade, save some cash. And if you have any questions, email us info@trade-ideas.com. Our YouTube handle is Trade Ideas. You can find Jamie on Twitter @QuantBot. Also find Steve Gomez at TISteveG. And we are also at Trade Ideas and some other handles around there. So check those out. You can find one. If you find one, you can find them all if you check them out. And Facebook, it's Trade Ideas Pro. So the recording of the session will be up later on tonight or tomorrow on our YouTube channel, and you get an email reminder tomorrow about how to find it. So thank you, Jamie and Steve. You all have a good rest of your afternoon there.
Yep. Thanks, everybody. We'll see you next time.